Hey everyone, I'm Maria and welcome to my nook. In today's video, we are going to talk about all the books that I have read in July and August. So let's jump right into my reading wrap-up. The first book that I have read in July, I actually listened to because it was an audiobook. It was Below Zero by Hazelwood. You've probably already noticed that I've listened to Under One Roof and Stuck With You by Hazelwood, which are, together with Below Zero, part of a sort of series of 3 novellas, and Below Zero now was the last of it. Each of them is about one friend from a friend group, and Below Zero was about Hannah. And Below Zero, oh my god, it was so amazing. I loved it so much. I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was so lovely. I loved Hannah so much. She's such a hard-working and brave and strong person. It's amazing, and I really enjoyed the journey of Hannah and Ian. Just a really quick interference from editing Maria, because I recently learned a new term. 2 new terms actually, and that is open door romance and closed door romance. For the people who don't know, open door and closed door refers to how the sexy stuff is written. So closed door would be, for example, a fade to black scene, or that it's only implied that something happened between 2 characters. And open door romance would be that you're getting all the descriptions, you're getting all the sexy stuff, you're getting all the steam. So I just wanted to add those to the romance books that I read in these 2 months. Below Zero was definitely an open door romance, just so you know, in case that matters for you, or in case you want to know that before going into a book. I also love the guest appearances of Mara and Sadie. I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. I gave it 5 stars easily again. And this is just another proof for me that Hazelwood is an instant buy for me in the future. Okay, I'll give you 3 seconds to guess which book I finished reading yesterday. Okay, it was The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. In The Atlas 6, the Alexandrian library was never actually burned down, and it still exists as a society and as a library, as an archive. And every 10 years, so once a decade, 6 magicians, the best of the best in the world, get invited to study for 1 year at the society, and after that year only 5 of them will be initiated for another year of studying at the archives. As you probably saw in my 2022 TBR video, I was really excited to get to this book. It had been on my shelf for a while and on my TBR list even longer, but now I finally got to it. I have to say, there was a lot of hype around this book on the internet, which obviously got me excited for it, and it got me intrigued and everything. It didn't necessarily disappoint me, but it also didn't necessarily live up to the hype for me personally. I did enjoy the book. The middle part felt kind of a bit too slow for me, I felt like the whole book was very much about the characters and their connections to each other and their powers, less about an actual plot. But in the first third and in the third third, it was quite well balanced in my opinion. But in the second third, in the middle part, I felt it was a little too unbalanced and it was a bit too much of a character study and a bit too little plot. There was basically no plot going on, which slowed it down for me. But I really enjoyed the whole design of the book. I really liked the formatting and the fact that we got POV switches between all 6 characters, which by the way also made the whole time flow feel very kind of natural. I mean, 1 year is a huge amount of time, but it didn't feel like a whole year had passed. That was very well done. I very much enjoyed the end of the book. The first third was exciting in the sense that it was all new and we were getting into this new world and getting to know everyone and everything. The last third was thrilling because secrets were revealed and things were toppling over and things weren't happening the way I thought they would happen. And the end, oh my gosh, I am totally going to read the sequel of it. The Atlas Paradox comes out in October, if I'm not mistaken. Editing Maria here again. The Atlas 6 was definitely more than a closed door romance. So I would say it's an open door romance. So yeah, I'm giving this book 3.8 stars. It wasn't a bad book, absolutely not, but I just didn't enjoy all of it. Okay, yesterday I finished such a good book. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what this piece of fluff is right here, it's the doggo who laid down on my pillow. So in case he's making any noises, that's it. The book I finished yesterday is A Brush with Love by Mazey Eddings. A Brush with Love by Mazey Eddings is about dental student Harper, who is trying very hard to become a doctor, and she doesn't want any distractions. But then first year student Dan comes into her life and happens to be a very lovely distraction. I mentioned it in my book haul in July, and oh my god, this book was so good. It honestly surprised me so much because I kind of expected, you know, just a light, fluffy, cute romance. But no, this book is so much more than that. There are a few trigger warnings for example, anxiety and panic attacks. If any of those topics are difficult for you, I would suggest you look up the trigger warnings for this book before getting into it. The anxiety representation in this book felt very authentic and personal, and I just felt so understood and heard and seen. This book was a really sweet and funny and light and cute and fluffy romance. Editing Maria here again. A Brush with Love was an open door romance. It wasn't necessarily something new to the genre, but it was so much fun and so enjoyable. And then also added to that the fact that the anxiety representation was so well done. Just made this book feel so personal and so vulnerable, if that makes sense. It just made it feel like I was able to be so incredibly close to these characters. And also, I often feel like this whole trope of the healing power of love is pretty inaccurate. So I felt like the whole conclusion of this book felt much more healthier for the characters, and also as a depiction it felt like a healthier role model, if that makes sense. Like this whole healing power of love trope just creates a kind of inaccurate picture what love should be doing. I hope I found the right words now. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. It was an amazing book. I loved it so much. I gave it 4.5 stars. I almost gave it 5 stars, but it just kind of, I don't know, for 5 stars, it just needs to really feel like a 5-star read, you know, with my whole heart and soul. It needs to feel like a 5-star read, and it didn't feel like that, but it was still a really, really, really good book. I loved it, so I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I finished another book last night. It was Kopf von Sherlock Holmes, which does have an English version, by the way. It's called Inside the Mind of Sherlock Holmes, if I remember correctly, by the same authors, Cyril, Liéron and Benoît Dahan. I don't know about the pronunciation because they're French names as far as I know, and I don't speak French, but I might put the author names onto the screen. But anyway, this book was incredible. Honestly, every single page of this book is an artwork. I could take these pages and frame them and hang them up. These illustrations are gorgeous. They're marvelous. And the story was so much fun to read and puzzle along, trying to figure out what happened and what all the clues meant and everything. Also, this book is so creative because it's even interactive. There's pages that you kind of have to hold against the light to see certain clues, or you have to like fold 2 pages together to be able to see something, or turn the book around to read certain things. And this book is so creative. You really notice just how much time and love and passion must have flowed into these pages, which is just incredible. And it was such a joy to read this book. I absolutely loved it. So it's getting 5 stars from me. I'm still so excited about this book. I finished Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and I really enjoyed this book. I was so wary of reading this book because I heard that someone whose opinion on books I really trust DNF'd this, which means did not finish, in case you don't know that. So I was a bit shy to start this book, but I really enjoyed this, which really surprised me in a very positive way, which is amazing, obviously. I absolutely loved the whole magical aspect of this book. I already kind of knew the whole world because I had read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber first. It takes place in the same world, and there are some of the characters from this series that also make a few guest appearances, or like characters from this series get also a big part in Once Upon a Broken Heart, which was the main reason why I started reading Caraval. It was really amazing how the author managed to even sweep the reader away, because even as a reader, it was sometimes pretty hard to differentiate between fantasy and reality. So I really loved how blurry the lines between game and illusions and performance and then reality were. The twists were a little bit cliche sometimes, but I still really enjoyed being surprised by them. And I also really loved the descriptions in this book. Oh my god. The artist in me melted at them. And I also really loved how big of a part colors played in the descriptions, and how big of a part colors played in the way the main character was thinking and even feeling. I loved that. I absolutely loved that. I already mentioned this with A Brush with Love, that for getting 5 stars, a book just has to feel like a 5-star read for me. And this did not quite feel like a 5-star read, but I still really enjoyed it, and it was a very fun 4-star read. And now I cannot wait to start the second book in the series, which is Legendary. Of course, after reading Caraval, I read Legendary by Stephanie Garber, which is the sequel of the Caraval series. And this book is written from the POV of their younger sister, Donatella, and it's basically about her experience of playing the game Caraval. It was great to see the differences between the two sisters and between how Scarlett had played the game versus how Tella was playing it. I also liked the descriptions of Tella's inner conflicts. Those were very interesting. In general, Stephanie Garber's writing style is just so lyrical and magical and fantastical. It just really wraps you up in this world. I already knew about a few plot points because I had read Once Upon a Broken Heart first, which is basically the first book of another series that takes place in the same world as the Caraval series. So I knew about a few things. I knew that they were going to happen, and I knew a very short version of how they were going to happen, but I was very interested in the longer version of what exactly happened and how it happened. What I got was honestly not what I expected, and honestly a bit confusing because it left quite a few questions open for me, even after reading the entire trilogy. I mean, it could have been explained, but it's fine that it wasn't. I'm not gonna die not knowing. But yeah, it would have been cool to know the answers to those questions. Other than that, I really enjoyed the characters in this book, and I really just enjoyed the story of it. And I gave this book 4 stars. And of course, after reading the second book, I also read the third book, Finale by Stephanie Garber. And what a finale it was. Oh my goodness. Once again, Stephanie Garber's writing style just whipped me away with how lyrical and magical and fantastical it was. This book is written in both POVs from both sisters, and it's basically switching between the POVs. And after the events of the second book, they now have to save the Empire. I think that's all I can tell you without spoiling anything, to be honest. And even though while reading this book I had a few suspicions and anticipated a few things about plot points, again, mostly because I had read Once Upon a Broken Heart first, but also probably because I was now really in this world and I was kind of getting the hang of the way this world works. This book still shocked me and surprised me and threw me out of my chair several times. It was thrilling and I loved the characters, even many of the evil ones. My feeling was in general that finale turned a little darker compared to Caraval and Legendary, which made sense considering the things that were happening, but it's just something I noticed for myself. And the ending was very satisfying in my opinion. I honestly couldn't stop smiling at the end of the book. So all in all, I really enjoyed this book and I enjoyed the entire series so much, which is such a pleasant surprise for me, because you know that I kind of shied away from Caraval for quite a while, and now the fact that I liked these books so much is amazing. I'm so glad I gave these books a chance. I gave Finale 4.5 stars. Also, I cannot wait to put these books on my bookshelf. They're going to look so gorgeous. I think I'm really going to miss these characters. Oh my. Next up, we have a pretty special book, Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. Something Wilder is about Lily, the daughter of a notorious treasure hunter who is doing treasure hunts for tourists, and she runs into her ex-boyfriend Leo, who is doing one of these treasure hunts with his friends. Leo didn't know he would run into his ex-girlfriend Lily. They had been together quite a while ago, like 10 years or something. And back then something threw them apart and they haven't spoken since. And now the trip is going horribly wrong and they have to work together and perhaps even clear up a few things about the past together. This book was really something. It sure was a ride, but not necessarily a bad one in my opinion. This book did stray from the romance genre at quite a few points. There was a lot of action and adventure and even mystery involved. And there were a few moments where I thought, what the frick am I reading right now? But I feel like that was only because of the common expectations that were built for romance books, and I think that if you just really let yourself fall into this book, it can be a really fun experience. I mean, it was a roller coaster for sure, but this book had amazing characters and amazing dynamics between the characters. Especially the women in this book are so strong and capable, and they're just so unapologetic for who they are and what they can do. And they're not damsels in distress. They don't need anybody to do anything for them. I also liked the names of the main characters a lot, Lily and Leo, and I do believe that names play a big role in how the reader perceives a character. I also really enjoyed the scenery and the nature aspect and the whole atmosphere this book created with the descriptions of nature. I really felt like I was in a different part of the world, and I loved that. Being able to still kind of do that through reading this book, A+. So yeah, it definitely wasn't a perfect book, but I enjoyed it. I'm giving it 3.8 stars. And next up is What If by Randall Munroe. This book has accompanied me for the past 2 years, over 2 years, 2.5 years, I think. I bought it in February 2020, and I had been basically reading it since then as a sort of side read. I think I've mentioned this in plenty of previous videos that I had been reading this book whenever I was feeling like reading but wasn't in the mood for the book I was currently reading, or I had just finished a book and wasn't in the mood to start a new book, or I wasn't sure which book to start next, but I just really wanted to read something. So then, in those cases, I was reading this book. It's a non-fiction book full of absurd, strange, and weird hypothetical questions. Like, for example, if every person on Earth aimed a laser pointer at the moon at the same time, would it change color? And the author answers these questions very scientific and serious. And this book is just perfect for me. A friend recommended this book because I'm the kind of person that asks questions like the ones in this book. So actually getting answers for those questions is honestly the best thing I can think of. The author actually spends time in deciphering not just if it would work, but what would actually happen. Sometimes he even writes down how it could work or what you would have to do to make it work, even if all those things are incredibly hypothetical. And I loved this book to pieces. I just enjoyed this book so much. And I also recently found out that the author is releasing a sequel to this book this September, and I'm so excited for that. And I also have 2 of his other books standing at home, and I cannot wait to read those. I gave What If 5 stars, and I would give it 100 more stars if I could, honestly. I finished another book this month. The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I've honestly been so excited for this book because I found the whole idea of this and the questions that it proposes so interesting. In the Soulmate Equation, there is a company, genetically, that claims that you are able to find your soulmate through your DNA. So basically you have to send in some spit and they will extract your DNA and then compare it to the DNA of other participants of the same test in their database, basically, and then find out who you match with. It's basically like Tinder, but based on DNA and biological markers. And I thought that's so fascinating, and the nerd in me was squealing. So in this book, Jess Davis, who's a 30-year-old single mom, is trying incredibly hard to make ends meet. She's basically juggling multiple jobs to try to make the best life possible for herself and her daughter. And she took one of these tests on a whim, basically, and sent them in to this company. And it turns out that on a scale of 0 to 100, she matches with a score of 98 with one of the founders of Genetically. Thing is just, she knows this guy and thinks he's an asshole. I love this book. As I already said, the whole idea of it is so interesting and fascinating, and even though it's kind of hypothetical, it just still, the nerd in me was so enthusiastic about it. And I loved Jess and River, the male main character, with my whole heart. And Jess' daughter is so amazing. This whole book is just so charming and funny and emotional. It's an open door romance, by the way. And the chemistry between them, oh gosh. I also loved how Jess and River were just being nerds together. I love seeing that, honestly. I just found this book so swoon-worthy and I enjoyed it so much. Every single second of it. I gave it 5 stars easily. And that is it for today's reading wrap-up. That was quite a number of books. I just checked and I read 10 books the last 2 months. That is honestly astonishing to me. I cannot believe I've actually finished 5 books per month in July and August. And those were actually pretty good books too. That's so cool, right? I really hope you guys also enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up and perhaps let me know in the comments down below which was your favorite book you read in the last 2 months. Perhaps check out my Instagram account, so I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Bye!